Hi guys, and welcome to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. On this week's show, we're talking about the Masters of Flair, we're talking about 6 a.m. bartending practice, and we're talking about the ScareTrack Podcast, which I've featured on this week. So let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at BartenderHQ. Here's your host, David Eden-Sangwell.
So yeah, this week guys, I'm featured on the ScareTrack Podcast, which you can find in iTunes. It's basically a roundup of everything important that's going on in the UK scare industry. Now, if you don't know what the scare industry is off the top of your head, the scare industry is essentially the attractions that theme parks and independents and a whole bunch of other companies put together to scare the general public. So this could be anything from zombie chases across a city to a scare maze within an abandoned building, or it could be survival stuff. They're talking to a guy on this week's show as well who does zombie survival weekends, which sounds absolutely fascinating, and I might have to find out a little bit about that. But they're doing a summer holiday special, and they asked me to make them a cocktail. So I made them one of our zombies, and with a few optional ingredients as well for people that might not have apricot brandy to hand, they might not have orgeat syrup and that kind of thing. I've gone for some stuff that's a little bit easier to get hold of, but also let them know what the originals are. So actually, let's go to that now. Let's take a look at that video. Hi guys, David here from Bartender HQ, and I'm doing a cocktail today for the guys over at the ScareTrack Podcast. We're going to be making a zombie cocktail, so let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the zombie cocktail, and I've got everything set up a little bit ready, steady, cook style here, so obviously you probably won't keep your ice cubes in one of these little bowls normally, but just for ease of doing this drink, obviously it's going to make things a little bit easier. So for the cocktail, start off with your mixing glass. Now you can use whatever you've got handy. It's handy if you can shake the drink, but if you can't, you can build this drink. You can just pour everything in there and go for it. Give it a bit of a stir, that'll help it out, no problems. So we're going to start off with white and gold rum, and we're going to use half an ounce of each of these. Now, if you want to measure this at home, it makes it a little bit easier for you if you've got one of these, which is a double-ended jigger. This is a full shot, this is a double shot. If you haven't got one of these, which obviously a lot of people aren't going to have, you can actually use a bottle cap from your rum or whatever you've got to hand that can just make sure that you get everything the same proportions that you need. Now I'm going to include the full recipe, but we're going for half an ounce each of these two rums. Then we're going to need a quarter ounce of orgeat syrup normally in a zombie, which is like an almond syrup. For our purposes, we're going to use some more alcohol. We're going to use amaretto for this, so a quarter of an ounce. Then you'd also use apricot brandy, which again, a lot of you guys aren't going to have. It's only a quarter of an ounce, so it doesn't matter too much, and we're going to use peach schnapps, Archers, for most people. It's very similar, apricot and peach, very similar flavours, so just give that a little drop in there. Then the majority of your juice in this drink is pineapple juice. It's a tiki style drink, so you need a shot and a half of that. Then we're going to pop in, I use really chunky ice, so I don't know if you can see that on the screen, but I've got 2 huge ice cubes in here. I'm going to pour all of that over the top, slam it shut, and give it a good shake. Now I shake for about 12 seconds, it gives you a really, really cold drink on the outside. Now when it feels like you've been doing this for far too long, that's about right. So we're going to break that open. Now ideally you want to use a Hawthorn strainer, just like this, to strain your ice out. If you haven't got one, you can actually use the bottom of the glass, just pop it in there, it'll hold the ice back. But we're just going to pop a brand new cubed ice into the top of the Colin's glass. Now this is a standard sort of glass that you'll see in a lot of bars. But it's perfect for this kind of drink. Strain that nicely over the fresh ice. And with this drink, we're actually going to top it with dark rum. Now, I'm using Gold of Mauritius. This is actually kind of halfway between a gold and a dark rum. How dark it is basically just depends on how long it's sat in the barrels aging. But we're just going to use a little bit of that. Float that right on top of the drink. And then a couple of straws. And our zombie is complete. Cheers. So there it is, guys. That's the zombie cocktail for ScareTrack. I'm going to put the whole recipe up at bartenderhq.com/ScareTrack so you can find that nice and easily. A few top tips for you guys if you want to make your cocktails even better. So the first thing is making sure that you don't skimp on the ice. Ice is probably the most important ingredient in 90% of cocktails, and if you don't use enough ice, you're going to have a watered down drink and it's not going to be cold enough. If you use poor quality ice, if you use stuff that's already wet, that sort of thing, it's not going to make you a good drink. So please make sure you use good ice. Just make it up in your freezer, chuck it in a poly bag, and you'll be good to go. Number 2, shake it hard and long. So I shake normally for around about 12 seconds. It feels far too long, but that's what you need. You need to make sure that drink's nice and cold. Number 3, garnishing. If you want to garnish this zombie cocktail, you can make it look really, really nice with just a chunk of pineapple on the side of the glass there. You can basically garnish any cocktail you want with any fruit that's kind of related to the drink that you're making. Measuring out, as I said at the beginning of the video, if you use the cap from the bottle, whether it's as a full shot or as a half a shot, and just make sure you multiply it up for all the other stuff, you're going to get a cocktail that works. And presentation, those straws at the end, don't bend them. If you bend the straws, it makes it look like they're in 1990. So head over to bartenderhq.com/ScareTrack to get the full recipe, and I'll pop this video up on there as well. If you want to follow my adventure with the Flair Project, I am basically crowdsourcing a Flair routine that is flipping bottles for the World Championships in 2016 that I'm going to be entering, and I'd love you guys to follow along with all the fun. It's at theflairproject.com. So it's gone really well, and it's sent a whole bunch of people over to the website, which is cool, because the more people we can get to find out, especially about the Flair Project, the better. Now, the Flair Project, 6 a.m. bartending practice. You may have seen the video on my Facebook page this week. It's on the YouTube channel as well. But on Tuesday morning, I think it was, maybe Wednesday morning, I was out at 6 in the morning, flaring on a skate park. Now, a few reasons. Basically, I'm now going to be entering the Masters of Flair, which I was scheduled to be hosting. But the guys have asked me if I'll enter as well, so one of the other competitors will compare for me, and that's going to be a load of fun. I'm going to try and interview all of the competitors while we're there, and that sort of thing. But why was I flaring at 6 in the morning? Well, the thing is, with the life that I lead, I work in an office all day, and I'm not behind a bar full-time anymore at the moment, so it's kind of hard to find the time to practice, especially with the little one. Little Oliver, my son, has just turned a year old, so he's a bit of a handful now. He's climbing and running around the place, so I can't really practice in the house. I can just about get a bit of time in the garden every so often, but because I have to get on the train at about 7:30 every morning. The best thing, it seemed, was to get up a little bit earlier and go and throw some bottles around. There's a skate park just on the way down to the station, and I thought, well, that's going to make an interesting backdrop as well. The video has been really well received. Loads of people have liked it. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's on the Facebook page, facebook.com/bartenderhq, and check it out. Chuck us a like, and let me know what you thought about it in the comments as well. I'd really like to know. But yeah, I was there for about an hour filming, just all on my own, a couple of people walking dogs coming past. The reason I went that far was because if I do it on my street, then I'm going to be waking up the neighbours. They're not going to be that pleased. But the skate park is well enough away from everything else. There's just a main road near it. So yeah, check that video out. It's pretty cool. I was really pleased with how it came out for a bit of editing on the train. And then so the Masters of Flair. It's a little bit different from Roadhouse. So I know we went through all of the Roadhouse rules. Differences, main ones, we're making 3 drinks instead of 2. One of them is a mixology drink, which is tasted and scored as such. There is a mixology category to the competition. There's a most entertaining category, which that is, fingers crossed, the one that I might be in with a shout for. We'll see. There's a badass move at the end, so you've got basically a 6-minute routine, which is making your 3 drinks. First one is full-on working Flair. Second one is your mixology drink. Third one is a standard, I think it's a Stoli vodka and cranberry and lime, from memory. And that, basically, Stoli are a sponsor for the whole thing, so this is why we're using a lot of their stuff. So yeah, a whole bunch of different categories, 6-minute routine, and then there is also an extra minute at the end, which is for your badass move. Now you get 3 attempts at this. It's the biggest move you can do. There's no penalties for drops in this section, but you obviously only get the points for the move if you land it within 3 attempts. So it's kind of interesting and lets you play around with the big stuff. No idea what I'm going to do in that, and it's only in about 3 weeks, so that's going to be interesting. So with only 3 weeks to actually practice for the Masters of Flair, I've really got to try and grab any minute that I've got wherever I can. Had a couple of moves that I've already been given. If you've seen the last couple of shows from Dave Chuvalaris and Sonny Channer, both from the West Midlands Flair Club, I've got a couple more on the way, hopefully from Brian Sanderson, who is one of the Manchester bartenders that I know, who is also currently looking at doing their own competition up towards Liverpool, I believe. So looking forward to that. I'm going to definitely try and get up to that competition as well. But if you've got a move that you want to submit to the Flair Project, it's probably going to be on a little bit of a hiatus until after the Masters of Flair. If I'm honest, I'm not going to be learning too many more new moves because I want to nail the stuff that I've already got between now and then. There's no point in trying to pressure myself in 3 weeks to learn new moves and then probably drop a lot of them. So we're going to go for a solid routine. I'm going to aim for minimum drops. I'm going to try and chuck a couple of new sections in. I'm going to try and chuck a couple of new sections in, not new to me, but things that I've been doing maybe over the last couple of months. I'm not going to have a custom music track for this, but what I will have is I'm going to try and find something that I can put together from the YouTube audio stuff, so that when I then put it back onto YouTube, there won't be any copyright issues, and I'll be able to share it everywhere and that sort of thing. If you watched the video that I shot down at the skate park, that is using just one of the free tracks that YouTube provides for use in videos without any restrictions, as far as I can tell. So nothing gets taken down anyway. So that's the cool thing about that, is that can now be shared all over the internet and no problems. If you were to put it over a pop track, something from the top 40 or whatever, or anything that's recognised and copyrighted music, you might well get it taken down. It might not play on mobile devices. It might not, I did a whole video on how to film Flair, and it gets mentioned in there. For the final Flair project, I am looking to actually create a track completely from scratch, probably in GarageBand, and use that, maybe with some extra little bits that I've got some ideas for, but keep your eyes out. That's going to be something that we come into, and we will actually go through how to create your music as well, because I do get a few people actually coming to me and asking, like, how do I edit my music together for this competition? I need a cut here, and I need a cut here, and I need these bits to... So we'll have a quick look at that. It's not going to be in depth. We're not going to teach you to be a DJ, but we will go through the basics of cutting your music together, cutting chunks out from one side, put them into another side, and that sort of thing. So that's all going to be coming up later in the Flair project. In the meantime, guys, please do get over to theflairproject.com. I'd love you to sign up there. There is an email submission section about halfway down the page. If you pop your details in there, you will be the first to know anything cool that's going on with the Flair project. And yeah, I know that is the perfect place as well. That's where I'm going to be giving you the best ways to get your clips to me. That's going to be where you're going to see the stuff for the first time. There will be some exclusive content I'm going to put on there, probably mainly me dropping stuff, kind of like a blooper reel. I think that's going to happen. So yeah, get over to theflairproject.com, sign up, pop your email address in there and your name, and let's be friends. While I'm plugging my stuff, I would also love you to check out, if you get a moment, the Memorizing Cocktails the Easy Way book. Now, I know that I used to have trouble with this, and it's one of the hardest parts of being a Flair bartender, is you're flipping your bottles and you're performing for your guests, but you've also got to be able to retain those drinks. And that goes the same for any bartender. If you've got a bar with a cocktail menu of 100, 150 drinks, you've got to commit all of those drinks to memory. If you've got a cocktail bar that's got a very short menu of all specialist drinks, that's great, you haven't got too many to remember there, but people are still going to ask you for the classics. So what Memorizing Drinks the Easy Way does as a book is basically gives you every tool that I've used to memorize over 600 cocktails. A few people have got it already. They found it very, very useful from what I've heard, so I'd love you to get it and let me know what you think, and if you have any problems with it, just get in touch. So that's going to be it for this week, guys. Follow us in all the usual places. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter. Really, I would suggest you subscribe to the YouTube channel now, because there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going up on there very soon. Also Instagram, I'm putting a lot of little clips of Flair up on there too. They're going really, really nicely. Everybody's enjoying them. So yeah, just join in, become a part of it, become a part of the Flair project, share it with your friends, and I will see you on next week's show. Thanks so much for joining me, guys.
Thanks for listening to the BartenderHQ.com podcast. Find us on Facebook and Twitter at BartenderHQ.